Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
Hello, what is up? I'm Jared Welch. He is Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, February 27th, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up, man?
What's up, guys? Yeah, I was telling you off air, I love getting the pod early and getting it out early and things like that, but I do think it makes for a better show when we kind of do it a little bit later at night. You can get a little more people watching live, and I'm a little less busy with the day-to-day work of the site, and we can just focus on the show. I think it's going to be a good show. I'm in a good mood today. I don't know if you could tell. Feel good about it.
I could tell. Yeah. I don't know what it is. You're very rarely in a good mood. So
it's just the first time all year. I feel like I've been in a good mood.
Whenever it happens, I really notice it. You know.
Yeah.
What do you think has triggered that? Just the big weekend ahead?
No, I think just having Davey here with us live has really been the big thing. This is the second straight show I've been on where Davey's been live with us, and I think that's been good. You know, I think that's what it is. So
being with me probably helps too.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the racing. I think it's just having friends with us. No, I think, to be honest, I think anybody kind of can tell you September through February racing is still going on, and you and I like it, but it's not as great, minus those little Breeders' Cup blip there, as it is March to August. That's when it's great, right? Triple Crown season is really in the thick of it. Then we actually get the Triple Crown, and then we get Saratoga and Del Mar, and it just doesn't get any better. And guess what? March 1st is Saturday, and we kick it off with all those preps, and it's just like, okay, we're back, right?
I mean, it really is like, when I was going through and handicapping this week or for the weekend, I was this is the San Felipe, and this means it's March basically, and that means we have one prep left, one round of preps left after this, and that's it. So it's it flies by every time, and David, that's interesting. Flies by every time. We always say it, I feel like, but man, this weekend is going to be just such a monster weekend because you have, the Bob Baffert horses out there you've got that are really going to figure out who's who out of, we know Citizen Bull, who is going to be kind of showing it. Mad Cat Road didn't disappoint himself last week, but he also kind of showed that he's not that level. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, okay, Barnes right now is currently the top choice. He's one, I think he's like, I printed it out here, or I screenshotted it before we got on there. I think he's 8-1 currently. In the win, and Citizen Bull's 9-1. So I mean, he is the favorite to win the Kentucky Derby as it stands right now. So you have the Derby quote unquote favorite running this weekend. So we're gonna figure out what he is. Not to mention Burnham Square's the top non-Baffert horse currently at the win at 14-1. He runs in the Fountain of Youth, which is a very interesting. The Ian Wilkes has the top non-Baffert horse currently. Yeah. But man, if he were to win again, he becomes a legit player. So it's a big weekend to figure out kind of who are these horses legit or not.
Oh yeah, this is a great week. It's going to be awesome. Like I said, you got the Gotham that I think will be a good race. We'll talk about it in a second. I think it'll be good. I don't know if it's a superstar, loaded field, but I think it'll be fun. The San Felipe feels like a race, and we're going to see something special. And then the Fountain of Youth, I think, is the swing race where it could go either way. It could be a race when we're done, we go, well, maybe they're just okay, or we could, after that race is over, be like, you know what, there's a couple horses that are really good, or at least one horse that's really good. So that makes that one fun. Look, it's going to be great. I can't wait.
A little, how we do at the beginning of the show, a little recap of last weekend's racing. And of course, we had the Rebel Run Sunday, and it didn't disappoint. I mentioned Mad Cat Road did everything he could really there, ran insanely fast, but did not win because that belonged to Coal Battle, who has done nothing really other than continue to improve each and every race. This was definitely his most impressive effort today. What do you make of Coal Battle? You and I kind of we talked about this on, I guess it was Saturday after, kind of that, we have time to digest a little bit, kind of where you stand with Coal Battle, and really in particular the results of that race.
Well, I put him at number 2 on my Kentucky Derby top 5 list, and I feel like you're going to say that's way too high, and maybe by the time the race gets here, it is. But this is how I look at it. He has proven himself 4 times on the dirt, 3 times at Kentucky Derby prep races, and nobody else has done that. And so I think right now he deserves to be number 2. All 3 of the races about mid-stretch, you knew it was over, or earlier, but about mid-stretch at least, you knew the race was over and he was going to win. Look. He got a really nice setup in the Southwest. Matticat Road, for some reason, went 45.72 to the half, and that was a good setup for closers. But you know what? He was the only closer that passed him. Sandman could have passed him, didn't do it, and so on and so forth. So I think you have to really, really say, look, he is doing exactly what's asked of him. And some of these other horses, they're not doing that over and over and over like he is. So as of right now, I've got him number 2. Will he end up that way? I don't know, but I don't know what world you're living in if you can't look at him and go, yeah, that's a pretty nice horse.
I mean, I definitely agree. He's a pretty nice horse. I think we're at a weird situation with him where you're right. It's like sometimes we criticize horses because it's like, well, look who they're facing. Like they're not doing it the right, like they're barely winning, but it's like, hey, they keep winning.
Yep.
So yeah, at some point you have to give respect to the horse. And I do. Having said that, I don't think he's a legit Kentucky Derby threat, but how can he not be? Because he's won 3 Derby preps in a row. So it's kind of I'm in the middle ground, I guess is the best way to say it. Do I think he's a Derby horse? Yes. Do I think he should run in the Derby? Obviously, yes. Do I think he's better than most of the horses running as of now? Yes. But I don't know that we have not seen him. Like, who is he? He hasn't faced a whole lot. And, this Oaklawn bunch so far, right? Well, Baffert did bring one in, but, I mean, let's be honest. It's not anywhere near his top horses. So we don't know what he is. But again, it goes back to the fact of, well, okay, he keeps winning though. So I guess I'll say the way I'll put it is I like him. I'm very cautious of him moving forward.
I think multiple things can be true about horses, and that's kind of how I'll put it. I don't think anything you said is wrong. And I don't think anything I said is wrong. I think he's good. He's improving with every race. I didn't say that, but he is improving with every race. He's undefeated on the dirt. He's won 3 Kentucky Derby prep race.
Yeah.
However, yeah, he did beat Baffert's. I think Baffert's at least 3rd string, maybe 4th string. Yeah, he did. He didn't beat Citizen Bull or Barnes, right? And you're also, right to say, look, he did get a great setup in this race. And the race 2 back, those horses were horrific that he beat, So, yeah, no, he hasn't beaten great horses. He hasn't, been up against it from a pace standpoint or whatever. But what he's done is win and win convincingly. And for that, hey, listen, I doubted him in the Rebel. I didn't doubt him in the South or in the Smarty Jones, but I didn't exactly play him strongly. So he's been proving me wrong already. And let's see what he does. I guess Arkansas Derby will be next, and we'll get another look at him.
And here's the thing too, if you look at the kind of the win, on the board, he's 18-1. Coal Battle is, and Sandman is 25-1. Those two should not be close, in my opinion. So if you're the point, I guess, is you made a good point, is Sandman, he kind of he keeps going into these races is this is the horse, this is a good horse, whereas Coal Battle is kind of whatever. So at some point you're hey, listen, one of them, they continue to get the same setups because they're running in the same races sometimes. One of them's getting the job done, one's not, and so at the end of the day, you got to give a lot of respect to Coal Battle. The fact that, let's just say they're both 20-1 on Derby Day, I know who I'm taking. So
yeah. And I think the difference between those two horses is Coal Battle absolutely 1000% knows what he's supposed to do, and Sandman has no freaking clue what he's supposed to do.
And you nailed it last week. We talked about this because Sandman was unfortunately my pick to win the race, and you're hey man, this is a little nerve wracking because it has a little tap it in a little tap it trice throwback, and boy, if you could not be more right. This is a horse that just screams tap it try. I'm having mental breakdowns watching this horse because and by the way, if you go, I know you don't, which is very, very smart, but if you go on any kind of social media channel, it's like the same thing. And I'll be like that we all said about Tappet Trice. That boy, if they go longer, Belmont, Sandman, Belmont. Oh my gosh, this horse is a lock for the Belmont.
Yeah.
And I've seen all kinds of comments about Sandman in the Belmont and Tappet Trice, the Belmont. And so he is just the quintessential, doesn't quite get the job done, bangs up there for second or third every time, finds all kinds of trouble he can, no matter what the trip is like. He is, he's a Tappet. He's what should be in the. I thought Tappet Trice was the horse that, like, hey, you look in the definition of a Tappet horse. I think Sandman is now that horse.
Yeah. I got a text Sunday evening, said they got to change the jockey on Sandman, and I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, but I think it's just this horse is just kind of, he's not all there, or he's either. I mean, and that's not fair. He hasn't figured out what exactly he's supposed to do, and like you just said, sometimes with Tappets, and sometimes any breed. I mean, it could be any sire, but with Tappets especially. Sometimes they never figure it out, and you go broke trying to wait for him to figure it out.
And he might figure it out one day, one race, and you're like, oh, well, shit. I chased him for 6 times, and I finally was off of him, and he won. So I think Sandman's talented. I do. I think he's a very good horse. I think he's got a lot of issues, Obviously, he's a runner. I mean, he picks off horses when it comes down, when he figures out to start running. But he just gives himself way too much stuff to do every race.
One thing I try to tell people the last couple of weeks, it's like, yes, his trip was just horrific in the Southwest, but when you go back and watch his other races, it's not that it isn't that rough, but they're not great trips, and he's not in good position, and it's because he doesn't get out of the gate very well. And it's like when he breaks, he's just kind of looking around like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to get up there and get in position. So, yeah, he made a nice move, but he didn't really come from like any further back than like some of his other races. And so it was just kind of like, I just don't know if he can really improve. And he kind of did the same exact thing he did in the Southwest. So
I tell you what, the moment, and probably the same for you, honestly, but the moment my whole life flashed before me, that I all of the decisions I've made leading up to that point, you rethink all your all the things that got you there, is when Tappet Trice broke from the Kentucky Derby gate, and I thought I was a genius for liking him, and my gosh, what a break! It could not have been better. And then it just the example I always tell people, it's like it was like grabbing a handful of sand and being like, I have it. And then just watching it all just fall out of your hand and you're like, we had it. He was perfect. And then they get to the wire the first time and he's in, last place almost. So it's like, that was when you're like, okay, maybe Tappets just are freaking idiots and you can't keep chasing them.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch it for a refresher, so he breaks, and we're on the feed together, and we're kind of looking at each other like, oh my god, he's gonna sit like 5th or 6th, and it's gonna be perfect, and he's saving all the ground. And you're right, and it wasn't like a quick thing, but it was just like stride by stride. It was like, no, what are you doing? And it was like, oh my god. And so, yeah, you cross the wire the first time and you don't even feel like watching because you're like, oh no, I know the story now. He's going to go 100 wide and he's going to pass horses that are just dog ass tired and run like 8th. And that's what he did.
Yeah, and then I'm going to pick him in the Belmont. So
that was on you. I said no more after the Derby.
Hey, listen, he ran better that day. He had every chance there too. But then
he had no excuse.
Okay. Anyways, so I clearly don't learn my lesson all the time. Well, all right. So earlier on the day in the Rebel, we got to talk about this horse because this is a horse that now we talk about Coal Battle being 18-1 on the future wagers there, or on at the win. And then you also have Sandman there at 25-1. But earlier in the day at Oaklawn, Bob Baffert shipped in a promising little maiden special weight. Cornicopian comes out and just absolutely sets the track on fire. They did actually have to get the fire trucks out to to put the fires out. That's how fast he went. A 101 buyer on debut. Bob Baffert brings in a beast. And listen, the horse now is sitting, I think it's 28-1 currently for Bob Baffert. Was 55-1. before the weekend. So obviously a horse that's got a ton of potential. Now, I'll ask your thoughts. I want to know what you thought of it. Obviously, it's hard to not like that performance. It's I think it's the third fastest buyer speed figure from a 3-year-old this year. But Baffert said with DRF after the race, we'll just see. We're not in a big rush. He's a good one. So he's very excited. He goes, but we knew that was something special. That was very impressive. Like, he knows that was special. He also says they're not in a big rush. How much Baffert lingo do you think you understand here?
Look, I think when you think about this horse, and it was amazing. Like, it was a hell of a race. You go fast early, you go fast late, you dominate. You were in another stratosphere of all those other horses. Great job. It reminds you of Justify and Taba. Like, those are the two horses it reminds you of when you watch him run. And look, we saw what happened with Justify. Baffert called every shot perfectly with Justify, and every little thing went right. With Justify. He never missed a day, and he was able to get an allowance and then go to the Santa Anita Derby and then go on and win the Triple Crown. With Taba, if you remember, he ran the second race of his career in the Santa Anita Derby. That was not what Bob Baffert wanted to do. He was forced by the ownership group. That was also a situation where Tim Yakteen had to, take over the training because of this dumbass rules that we still have. But anyway, I don't want to get in all that. But my point is, they forced Taba into that race. He won, and then there he is, third start he runs at the Kentucky Derby. I will go to the grave thinking that 3-race sequence screwed that horse up for the rest of his career. I realize he won a couple of races after and whatever, but he never really achieved his full potential, I don't think. And I think it's because they did too much too soon, and Bob Baffert didn't want to do it, okay? So with that being said, I think about Taba and what he wanted to do with him. Remember, you'll remember this, I know. He wanted to go to the Lexington and then go to the Preakness. Mm-hmm. This horse is pretty similar. And I think if they think he's a 2-turn horse, I think they'll try that route. I think they'll go a little bit easier race for his second start and then start thinking bigger in the third and fourth start. I would be surprised if you see him in like Arkansas Derby, Santa Anita Derby, something like that.
Well, even to Justify, they were everything had to go perfect, and by perfect I mean delayed drug tests for a couple of years. Perfect.
Well, yeah.
But my point is like, and he was even ahead of the schedule versus compared to this one.
Yes.
Because if you guys remember the allowance race, that was kind of the debut was obviously unbelievable, but the allowance race is when you're like, this horse might actually be the horse that wins the Kentucky Derby. Like, it became official. That was the day after the San Felipe. Mm-hmm. The San Felipe is Saturday. Mm-hmm. So it's basically like saying we need his horse to run back again next week to be like in the same kind of category or same kind of path to get to the Derby. And that again was everything going absolutely perfect. No hiccups, not a missed workout, nothing to get Justified to the Derby. So having said that, I think the Derby is out of the question. And I think the quote by Baffert there saying we'll take our time. I think Preakness 100% seems to be what I would, be focusing on, Preakness horse. But especially when you have a horse like Citizen Bull, Barnes obviously is just kind of his big horse as well this weekend. Your horse, Mad Cat Road. I mean, Rodriguez. So he's got a lot of bullets. Mm-hmm. So there's really no rush to get this horse. I don't think in the Derby.
I'll suggest one more path because I'm not sitting here saying he can't go 2 turns because I think it's possible, but it's also it's iffy. I think we do know he can go a mile for sure. What if they had second race of his career, kind of an allowance race, obviously, and then the third race is the Pat Day Mile?
Yeah.
And then after that, maybe they target like a Belmont, right? Because the Belmont's not a mile and a half. Again, it's a mile and a quarter. Like, I don't know how far he wants to run, and maybe you take that approach and do something like that. So, again, I think it's Bob Baffert, and if anybody can get that horse to win the Derby sitting here right now off one race, and it's February 27th, it is Bob Baffert, right? I'm very confident saying that. I don't think anybody else can. But with that being said, I think it's a long shot for him to make the it's a long shot for them to try to push him to the Derby is how I should phrase that. I just don't think that's what they want to do. I think they've learned from, I don't think Baffert need to learn it, but anyway, I just feel like go slow. There's huge races down the road. We've got Derby horses, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, like Taba had some good performances, right? He was a good horse, but they ruined him by doing what they did at the Path. I think a career that could have been unbelievable. Obviously, he was never winning the Derby that year because of who he was against. But the Breeders' Cup because of who he's against. But he could have had a very prolonged career. He always felt like he was a little bit behind the 8 ball, so to speak, because it was like playing catch up because of how much they forced him into that path early on. And so I don't, like you said, Baffert kind of quote unquote was gone at that point and didn't really get to call those shots, as at least the way we understand it. And I think that's not a mistake they're going to make here.
If you remember, we sat here and we said, okay, he's won the Santa Anita Derby. We're going to go to Kentucky. What's the price that is paid for this, though, if Kentucky doesn't go well? Like, what happens then? What if they do kind of push him too soon and he has a bad experience? What was the price of winning the Santa Anita Derby? What will this horse kind of do? And again, he was gone for a long time. He did, he ran a pretty good race in Haskell. He didn't win. He won the Pennsylvania Derby. Like, I'm not saying he was just a total flameout, but he just wasn't what. And again, we may have overrated him. That's number one, but I don't know if we overrated him, because if you win the second start of your career, you go win the Santa Anita Derby. They ruined that horse. I'm just going to be blunt about it. That's just my feeling. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, so Max, it's like the Avengers, the whole crew owns this horse, and it's a $1.1 million son of Into Mischief out of a Distorted Humor mare, and being that the ownership is who, like, they're not gonna, it's not Zidane, even though Zidane has big horses, but Zidane was Taba Barnes, but you're not gonna see them rush this horse, so this crew rushed this horse, so.
Yep.
I honestly, and I'm kind of with you. You and I were texting after the race, and I'm not. Well, one, there's no way they're not going to try. I don't think, but I'm not totally convinced he's not best at a mile type horse. Like,
right.
And that doesn't say like he can't get the can't go longer. I think we've learned that from Baffert. He can get these horses to go longer, but I think the mile might be more of his wheelhouse. Just especially considering he's who was it? He's a half to who? It's the
Guarana.
Guarana. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Who obviously did win going longer, but also was very perfect. Like, was just great at that mile distance. So kind of makes you wonder a little bit too how far this horse will want to go. Doesn't mean they're not going to try it, but I do think Baffert will be kind of take his time with this one.
Agreed. Yep.
And then last, and like this isn't Derby related, but we have to at least mention it because you had said that it was in our group text with John after the race. This was one of the best races you've ever seen in your whole life, and this was, and really, the Saudi Cup. It lived up to it. You had Forever Young versus Romantic Warrior, the two favorites, absolutely throwing it down. Romantic Warrior, the turf monster, trying the dirt. I mean, it was an unbelievable race. Forever Young, it was the best race I've seen him ever run. The way he battled back, I thought the ride on Romantic Warrior was second to none. To be like, hey, we're gonna try to steal this thing. We maybe don't belong in this race, quote unquote. You know what I mean? But it's like, hey, if these horses are gonna try to beat us, we're gonna do it right now. And honestly, it worked. Just Forever Young was that good.
Yeah, why I rated it one of the best ever. I mean, it was a great, last 100 yards of the race and so close and a great battle. But you just never, ever, not ever, but you hardly ever see a horse get past that convincingly. Like, we picked Forever Young, and I was watching him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that Romantic Warrior just blew by him. And you're looking around like, holy shit, that was unbelievable. And then Forever Young switches over to the outside. And it's just like stride for stride. You're like, oh my God, he's coming back. And it was still at first, it was like, I don't know if he's going to win, but he's going to make a race of this. And then it's like, oh, yeah, he's going to do it. And the other great thing about it, Romantic Warrior switches over to the dirt and runs just a fantastic race. And you can never take that for granted. You just look back to City of Troy, and sometimes those turf horses are terrible when they go to the dirt. Now, sometimes they can handle it like Romantic Warrior. So you had that question mark. And then when he was firing, the first thought in your mind was like, wow, this turf horse is now going to win the richest dirt race. And then, like, say, Forever Young comes back. I would rank it top 5, top 10 at least. It was just exciting. And again, I think the thing about it was it didn't look like it was going to be exciting. It looked like it was going to be a runaway. But I mean, that was exciting, but it didn't look like it was going to be close. And then you got that element, and it's like, oh, that was amazing.
I just like when a jockey or a horse, however, whatever decision was made before the race, that, hey, you know what, like, we're a turf horse. There might be some issues that we can't predict or how he's going to handle that or whatever. So let's just put it in our own hands. Let's wheel out. Let's go to the lead and let them catch us if they can. And I love when a move like that is, and really, like I said, it worked. It just forever. I mean, even Forever Young was like, oh shit, and he just and honestly, that's not something we talked a little bit about him last week, where it's like, he is a really good horse, and we like him, but he also just sometimes lacks that wow factor. Where you're like, can he get that job done? Can he finish the Derby? Can he finish the Breeders' Cup? And the answer is no. But this one he did. And when all things were kind of up against him, when everything was kind of pointing, like you said, to this horse is going to run away with it, and he battled back, I thought that was ultra, ultra impressive.
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And you're right. And you know what? When he got passed like that, it looked like he was going to do the same thing he did in the two big, not the Derby, but the Breeders' Cup over here. The last time we saw him over here, Forever Young ran really well. He's not like just elite. He's just really, really good.
Yeah.
And then when he started, like I said, when he started coming and making that move and then he caught him, it's like, okay, I have doubted that. Even though I picked him, I had doubted that you're an elite horse. You are now an elite horse. Here's your crown. Like, and maybe never come back to the United States again, because for whatever reason, you can't win here, but you can win all over the world. But here. So,
by the way, can we say this? How good was Mystic Dan last year in the Kentucky Derby? Because he's now beaten the Breeders' Cup Classic winner and the freaking Saudi Cup winner. Think about that.
And he's never won again.
He's never won again.
When we, not to keep talking about this, but when we first started this, we never missed a Derby. We hit every damn one of them.
Yeah.
And I took it for granted how hard it is to get the Derby right. Because these last Derby winners have been, and again, if you're listening and you've hit them, congratulations. And I'm not taking anything away from you. That's a hell of a, I mean, I'm actually bragging on you. That's amazing. It is so hard to get to those horses that have won lately. I don't care what anybody says. It is, those horses were hard to get to, really hard.
Especially when you're a guy like John who maybe picked Forever Young, or someone that loves Sierra Leone, and then you're like you watch him the rest of the year and you say, wow, I mean, shit, I was right. Look how good this horse is. Like, he just won the Breeders' Cup. Look how good Forever Young is. And McPeak and Mystic Dan beat me.
It's like if he entered Torpedo Anna, and she was already a stud, and then she wins it, okay. But Mystic Dan beat Sierra Leone and Forever Young. Like, let that sink in.
A battle too. It's not like the horse stole the thing it on the front end. There was a battle to the wire.
Well, and again, if Mystic Dan goes on and he's won 2 or 3 races since, you go, well, hey, he's pretty. What? Like, Sees the Gray beat him, and then he hasn't. I don't know that he's beaten like a horse in another race. I mean, he has. He's beaten 2 or 3, but it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, that's the Derby is what gives me second thoughts about what I do for a living every year now. It seems like, because you're like, really?
Yeah, and it used to reaffirm or
I know.
Confirm, like, oh yeah, we're good at this.
And then I love Mystic Dan. It's like, why did you love Mystic? Like, shut up. I've only been working on this since January. And you just came in and looked at a form and liked the name Dan, and that's what you picked. It's like, son of a bitch, what am I doing in my life?
Yeah.
All right, let's get into today's show. See if we can find another Derby winner this weekend. We're gonna look at the three major 2025 Kentucky Derby prep races this weekend at Gulfstream, Sand and Aqueduct, the $415,000 Fountain of Youth, the $300,000 San Felipe, and the $300,000 Gotham. Let's go. Let's kick things off here with the Fountain of Youth. This is three really good, well, two really good ones and the Gotham, which will be a fun one. Let's put it that way. I don't know how good that one's going to be, but as far as production goes,
yeah,
but it should be a fun race.
I agree.
You know, they are running at a mile, so there's that. Don't give me
if you haven't bought the betting Bible yet, or if you're not a subscriber and got your hands on it, you need to buy it just for Jared's commentary on some of this stuff. He's brutally honest.
I don't hide much.
Yeah. Now he's serious when he's like made a bet. He's gonna explain why, but sometimes when he hasn't bet a race, that's the best part of the Bible.
Yeah, like I'm not like a lot of people where it's like, well, you know, I like this race, but I just don't have a great feeling for it. It's like, no, I hate these horses. These horses suck. I'm not betting any money on this.
Yeah.
Just, listen, call it like I see it. All right. Gulfstream Park on Saturday, race number 13. This is the Coolmore Fountain of Youth Stakes, grade 2, worth $415,000. I found $15,000 somewhere. Threw it in there. That's the best guess I have. Mile and 16th. For the 3-year-olds, 50 points to the winner, 50, 25, 15, 10, 5. These are all 50-point races, these three we're going to talk about. You win, you're in. You get second. You have a great shot of being in. You might be in, depending on who you are. Field of 8 lines up here, and, really it's a good betting race because you've got options all across the board here. River Thames at 2-1, 5-2 on Burnham Square, and Sovereignty making finally coming back here at 3-1. You also have Gate to Wire, a couple Pletchers in here at 6-1, 8-1 on Keep It Easy on the outside. The other ones are double-digit prices. What you think of the field overall, and where are you leaning?
Again, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you're just tuning in now, I'll say it again. I think this is the one that it can go either way. We could be sitting here Saturday evening and going, that just wasn't good. Or we could say, yeah, no, that was okay. There's just a lot of iffy prospects in here. And it reminds me a lot of the Rebel last week, where I do feel like we learned a lot. It's shorter field, but it kind of reminds me of that kind of race. So I was waiting, and finally the odds came out for this race. And I was a little surprised that the number 6 River Thames is the favorite at 2-1. Unfortunately, I did pick him to win, but I don't love the price. So I'll start there. But look, I think he's been the most impressive horse in the race. He's 2 for 2. He really hasn't been close to getting beat yet. I do think he'll stretch out to a mile 16th. After that, I do think it might get a little sketchy. I just kind of feel like he turns for home with the lead, and it's kind of a short stretch when you run a mile and 16th at Gulfstream. I think he's going to be kind of hard to pass.
Yeah, this is a big race obviously, but it's a big race for him because he's done nothing but win, and ultimately, his 2 wins have been combined by 11 links. Like, he's not just winning races, he's dominating races. I'm with you, and I think that's kind of where I'm at, and maybe I shouldn't hold that against him for this race but I'm just a little nervous on going further. He ran a 94 Buyer on debut. What did his time form do on the second race? He regressed in his second race. Now, it wasn't a bad regression. It was 94 to 92. Went from 6 furlongs to a mile, but kind of makes you wonder if the longer we go, if that number continues to go down.
Yeah, he did regress. He earned he was assigned a 113 time form on debut, 108 for his next race. So 113 to a 108. So you're right. I mean, if that trend continues, he's going to have to get back to 113, if not, I think 113 probably win it. He's going to have to get back to that number.
Well, let's go to the horse that I like most here, and that's the 3 Burnham Square. And really, you kind of mentioned a horse that once this horse has gone longer, everything has switched for him. On his debut at his debut mile 16th, he debuted at 6 furlongs and got second. But his next race out, he ran a mile 16th and got beaten 3/4 of a length to Monet's Magic, who came back to win. And then after that, won by 9 at a mile 16th, and then won last out in the Holy Bull very impressively as well. Earned a higher speed figure each and every race. We talked about Cole Battle and what we like about him at Oaklawn Park last week in the Rebel. To me, this is like the Florida Cole Battle. He just what does he do? He continues to win, and and you can take it, think he's not that great or he's a face much, but I think this horse just continues to do one thing and do one thing well, and that's win. He's versatile. He's won by on the lead. Last time out, he came from out of it. I like that this horse doesn't necessarily need a certain setup. So I think Burnham Square, I don't know what he is, but I think he's a horse that's not going to give up. Like the distance is going to be fine no matter how far they go.
I thought it was a good pick by you, and I think if you backed him last time, I don't think there's enough in this race for you to not back him this time. I think it's a tougher spot. Don't get me wrong, but he won that race like he's ready for a tougher spot, right? So I think it's a good pick. I think he's kind of the now horse as well, running so well the last 2 races there at Gulfstream. And, I think the number 2 Sovereignty might be better than him eventually. But I don't know that this is the right time to bet Sovereignty. Off the layoff, going a mile and 16th on a race where I don't think there's just going to be a ton of speed. I don't know that it's going to set up for him. So I'm kind of with you. Like, I think if you want to play a horse coming from out of it, I do think Burnham Square is the right pick for this specific race. Now, as we get down the road, we go 1.8 miles, 1.25. Sovereignty gets a race or 2 under his belt. Maybe I feel differently, but it just kind of felt like to me, it's like, I'm not sure if this is the time for Sovereignty. I think it may be down the road.
So there's a lot of horses that, unfortunately, it was the First Resort, that his name, that is out.
Yep.
But he was a horse we talked about coming back last week. And of course, he got scratched and now he's out. But, that's a big race for him to just make this comeback. East Avenue, a horse we saw a couple weeks ago. Hey, this is a very big race for him to see what he is after, kind of not running well at the Breeders' Cup. Here is a horse as well that comes in and said, hey, we haven't seen this horse since October, since before the Breeders' Cup. What is he? How good is he? Mm-hmm. He did beat Sandman in that race, so there's that. But everybody beats Sandman. I'm sure Sandman was coming up running. It's like, hey, I'll get him next time. But listen, I think I don't not like Sovereignty, but I'm with you. 3-1 seems a little low when you have a red hot Burnham Square, a red hot River Thames in this race, but the other Pletcher isn't exactly awful. So I think Sovereignty has, I think betting him, if he loses here, then if assuming there's no real excuse or no major concerns with how he ran, betting him back in the Florida Derby seems more interesting to me than playing him here.
Yeah, that's kind of how I kind of left it as well. I've got him in my Derby top 5, but those things are more like a placeholder until we see him actually run. And like I said, sometimes you like a horse and then you draw into a race and you start looking at them against the other horses they may have to face. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not sure I like him in this spot. So I will say this. I think if Sovereignty wins here, he's pretty damn good because, again, I just don't think his style is real conducive to winning this spot off the layoff. But, if he wins, that's a big feather in his cap because he should get better off of this race. So, look, I don't think this race is overly complicated, which means, McKellen will win at 30-1 after I say that. But kind of feels like Pletcher's versus Burnham Square and Sovereignty's next out. That's kind of just how I kept looking at it. I think the other Pletcher, Gate to Wire, he's interesting. I don't know how he'll stretch out. It felt like the last race in the Swale, first race on dirt, they kind of just threw him in there. To me, how I saw it, I was like, let's just give him a shot. He's not doing much, Yeah. And my goodness, did he run well. But can he do that again at a mile 16th? I don't know, but he looked great in that race.
Yeah, I don't, the one thing is you got to be careful too. Okay, well, hey, we beat Sandman. Sandman sucks. Well, he also beat him by 5 and he beat the shit out of him and Sandman finished 3rd, so it's
right. Yeah.
I think we got to be careful sometimes with just because Sandman was in the race and you don't necessarily love Sandman, it's hey, it doesn't mean, he beat the hell out of him. So, I'm not necessarily concerned about that, but I do. The concern is just coming back off of this kind of a layoff. I mean, he hasn't seen him since what is it, November, December, January, 4 months really is how long it's been since this horse has ran in a race, which is, a lot can change in 4 months. So
yeah.
I'm excited to see him back because I do think he could be a legit prospect, but I feel like we've said that before with these Godolphin horses making their return. So we'll find out what. Let's go to the horse just to his inside. The other Pletcher, Gate to Wire, ran that day and the Holy Bull Day on the undercard in the swell. Dominated 1 to 7 furlongs. This was a horse that had been running on turf, then ran on the synthetic at Gulfstream, and then boom, came to the main track there and dominated. Now he shows up here. Any interest out of this one?
Yeah, it's just the pedigree is the thing, and what are we doing? We just kind of guessed last time and it worked. Is he a dirt horse? Is he not a dirt horse? I'm not sure. I do have interest because that race was huge last time out. It was a big race, and if he can run that again, maybe, right? I mean, he can win here if he could run that kind of race for sure. Can he do it going 2 turns? It was last time a little bit of a fluke.
Yeah, I know, but this feels like well, shit. I mean, look, he dominated. He won the swell, which is the 3-year-old race, the sprint race on the undercard there. We might as well try him. It's so I don't think it's he kind of ran his way into the race. So did he deserve the spot? Sure. I'm waiting and seeing on this one. He got a good number for that race. He got a really good number, actually. Mm-hmm. I'll wait and I'll let him beat me though. Anyone else? Keep it easy. Dale Roman's a dominant winner last out, but I haven't seen him since November. That's the only horse that's really, Saffy Joseph has the 7. The horse that's kind of been good, won last out. It's in the state bred horse. But anything else in this race that interests you?
Not really. No, I know there's some people that kind of like keep it easy. I couldn't get there. I wouldn't be shocked if he runs okay, but I didn't want to play him. I thought it was a straightforward race. I really did. I don't think it's too complicated. And like I said, again, McKellen will win now that I say that, but no, I wasn't interested in much. I am interested to see how the 7 runs. I don't think he's going to win. And I don't even think he's going to hit the board, but he was racing like 4 or 5 lengths behind Rated by Merit, who was a really good Florida bred that I wanted to see try open company. So I'm curious to see what if the 7 kind of competes here. What would that have meant for Rated by Merit? So I'm interested to see that happen, but I'm not interested in betting the 7.
Well, we're still kind of waiting around for Todd Pletcher to have a big time Derby horse. So maybe this is it. We'll find out. This is a big race for the 6, which I know you're going. He had a horse that ran today that was pretty dominant at Gulfstream Park. We'll see where he shows up. So there's some of the pieces are starting to come together with the Pletcher runners. Don't you have who's the horse you have that's is it Tip Top Thomas?
Yeah, Tip Top Thomas. Yeah.
Is he doing anything?
He's working out. I think he's had like 5 works now. So he's probably getting close to a race, but I don't know.
Yeah, and our Pletcher showcase, he's a good horse, but unfortunately he's not going to come back for this. So really, we're trying to figure out at this point, it's kind of this one, right? I mean, if we want to compare him to like the Baffert situation, this is his horse. As of now, we'll see if River Thames can get the job done or if one of these other ones shows up. So your final pick is who?
My final pick is going to be number 6, River Thames.
Okay, I'll go the 3, Burnham Square. I think both of those horses, 2, let's see. I guess 2.5 would be the over-under on runners here. I think 2 is the number.
Yeah, I'd go under 2.5. I think 2 is probably about right. Yeah, I don't see any more than that.
I mean, Sovereignty could be special. We'll find out. I mean, he's only won 1 race, so let's not get too excited about him until he kind of proves it one more time, maybe. Burnham Square, I think he's a nice horse. I don't know that he's Derby nice. And then, the 6 could be anything, really. Yeah. So, I do think that there is some potential in this race. I think more than anything, it's more potential for what we're going to see kind of coming up in the Florida Derby. kind of a showcase for that. But there's our picks here for. I am going with Burnham Square. Let's head to Santa Anita now. This is the race I'm most excited for obvious reasons. Race number 8 on Saturday, the San Felipe Stakes, Grade 2, 300K, also mile 16th, field of 6, 3 Bafferts. So half the field coming out of the Bob Baffert barn. So he's trying to figure out which Baffert is best in the race. The even money favorite Barnes versus the stablemate Rodriguez at 9-5. Journalism at 7-2, and the other Bob Baffert, Mellencamp, at 6-1. The other two are just thrown in. So where are you going here? How do you kind of digest this race with a small field and half of them Baffert?
Yeah, it gets a little old having 3 Bafferts in a 6-horse field every time we're running Derby preps. But yeah, look, let's just move past that and try to get to the race here. I view journalism a lot of the same ways I view sovereignty. I feel like he's a good horse. I feel like he doesn't have to win here. He just needs to show up, run well down the lane, and get a nice race to build him up to the next one where he should have more success going a little bit longer and maybe with a little more horses and pace. So journalism to me is kind of a next time out. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins, just like I wouldn't be shocked if sovereignty wins, but I just feel like he's more of a next time out horse. So if you get to that opinion, it's between Barnes and Rodriguez. I just got to think Barnes is a more heavily hyped horse. Hernandez looks like he's chose to ride Barnes. I know Pratt's a very good jockey on Rodriguez, so that's good. But I really feel like Barnes, this is his race to lose. I think he gets to the lead. I think he takes him gate to wire. I just think Barnes is going to be the best horse in this one.
Yeah, that was the big thing, obviously, going into it is, unfortunately, you kind of have to start getting used to how you handicap these races with small fields and a bunch of Baffert runners, because you kind of start to, okay, which one's going to go, which one's going to let them go, and so you have to sit there and decide, okay, it's Barnes versus Rodriguez on the front end. Who is it going to be? I'm with you. I kind of landed on, I think Barnes is not going to mess around here. I think they're going to just go.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Rodriguez. He has won gate to wire last out. He let his stablemate Citizen Bull do the running, and of course that happened. I think with Barnes, he's a horse that really hasn't technically been directly on the lead, although he's been right there in both his performances. I think they're going to say, come get us. I think this is in Rodriguez, hey, if you're good enough to run him down, then great. But I think Barnes is going to set fractions here. And, making his 2-turn debut, going from 7 furlongs to mile 16th is always a question mark. You never know how they're going to do until they do it. Into Mischief out of American Pharaoh Mare, I have a hard time believing. I see him on the screen. I don't see why he wouldn't get it. Bob Baffert doesn't see why he wouldn't get it. I expect him to run. Honestly, I told you earlier, I said, I don't know who. I am concerned of Rodriguez. I think he has that potential. I think one of these two are going to run a A+ race, like a race that we're sitting here talking about on next Thursday going, wow, I mean, he should win the Derby.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. And I think, I think out of the 3 races, this is the one where we are going to be the most like wowed by a horse. And again, I would rank it the same way as you. I think Barnes is the most likely horse to do that. I do think there's a world where Rodriguez does it, and I think we need to think about that as well. And then the other part of it is, what if journalism wins this race? How impressive is that going to be, and how excited are we going to be for that? So I do think there's a world where if journalism wins, maybe he's the number 1 horse, because this is kind of a race we're sitting here saying he probably shouldn't win this one. Maybe down the road he should be the one that's winning. So I think those 3 all could have it, or all could do it. But again, I am with you. I think Barnes is the most likely horse to do it, and I think Rodriguez is the one to worry about. But look, I think Rodriguez is a pretty good horse, but I think if you're good, if Barnes is the real deal, he should beat him.
Totally. I that's the thing about this race that is a little nerve-wracking for backers of Barnes like myself is this feels like it's a very, very big race for him moving forward. If you are the goods, as you're supposed to be, $3.2 million horse. I mean, we know what Zidane has done in the past with these horses. I mean, you got to go out and win. It's a 6-horse field. There's no excuses. You can't let your stablemate Rodriguez beat you when you're supposed to be the horse to beat in the barn, So it's a lot on the line, and obviously making that 2-turn debut. A lot of things can change after this, if it doesn't go according to plan. So, but I expect him to run well. I really do. Rodriguez, I don't think has as much to lose, because I think he continues to run. I mean, he's already ran in a prep race and didn't necessarily disappoint. He ran second to Citizen Bull, which is not anything to really be disappointed about. The concern with journalism is I think it's going to take a 95-ish buyer to win this race. He needs to improve almost 10 buyer points in order to win this race. And that's coming off of a layoff. I don't think this is the race that happens. He's not got a number in the 90s in the buyer speed figures. Meanwhile, Rodriguez has 2 90+, and Barnes has the last one, we ran 93. So I think it's going to take some improvement from journalism off a layoff in order to beat not 1, but 2 baffert horses.
So can I say something that will probably make a lot of people triggered, because journalism is like a big time prospect, right? Like a lot of people are picking him right now. And I'm not sitting here saying that he is, but is there not a halfway decent chance this horse is overrated? Like, what are we basing it on that he's like the Derby winner right now?
I guess on Barnes?
On journalism.
Oh, journalism. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I don't understand the hype from him from day one, to be honest with you.
So he broke his main at Del Mar going a mile, and he beat a horse named Rank, and he beat him easy, but he beat him, and Rank, I don't think Rank has come back to, he's ran like 1,000 times. And then he went up to Los Al, and he beat Gaming, who has quit. Everybody beat Gaming in the Southwest, except maybe for one. And then he beat Getaway Car, and I don't want to offend you or Kevin, but I think we all know, Getaway Car is not.
Oh, you're not going to offend either one of us on Getaway Car.
Yeah, like he is who he is. I'm not saying the horse is bad. I'm not saying the horse can't go win the Derby. I'm not even saying that I dislike journalism. I don't understand why a lot of the wise guy people are picking this horse to win the Derby right now. I think he has a lot to prove. I think he has just as much to prove as Barnes, if not more.
I mean, if you were asking me, here's what's funny about the thoughts on journalism is, like you said, a lot of people picking him to win the Derby.
Right.
If you said, hey, Jared, give me right now the top 10, top 5, let's say top 5 horses out running, 3-year-olds running out west, he may not make my top 5. So, it's close.
Yeah.
So the point is, that's just out west, not overall, not overall 3-year-olds, just out west. And so, like you said, I do think there's a lot to prove here for journalism. I don't know if it's because it's McCarthy and he's got this big Derby horse that's, had the hype, but yeah, there's definitely been some hype from day one.
Well, I'll say this, and this I'll get off of it, but there's a lot of people, like I said, that love this horse. And look, I don't necessarily think he's going to be bad or he's not good, and I think there's a chance he could win the Derby and a chance he could be a nice colt for sure. He's bred great, but there was I won't name names. There was somebody on FanDuel that has him number 1, and his argument was, there's no way I could rank Citizen Bull up there. He's beat absolutely nobody. But then he has journalism number 1, and it's like he's beat the same horses, only less of the same horses as Citizen Bull. So it's like, well, I don't understand the logic there.
He's beat
if you're going to go with the who you beat situation, journalism would be way down the list because he hasn't beat anybody. And again, he's only faced who he's faced. And I don't personally hold that against him. But if I'm sitting there and saying, okay, I'm going to go with the horses and I'm going to go with journalism because holy cow, he's just looked great. But Citizen Bull, no way, because he hasn't beat anybody. What? Who's journalism beat?
Can I ask you? We'll get off of it after this.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question though?
Yeah.
What chances do you think Mellencamp has to win this race?
Not very good chance.
Okay. What chances would you say Smooth Cruisin' has to win this race?
0% chance.
Both those horses beat journalism on debut.
Well, I mean, it's a 6 furlong race.
That's all I'm saying. Okay, if he's raced 3 times, his first race, he got beat by 2 absolute dogs in this race.
I'm not holding that against him.
And then the next 2, he beat Rank and Getaway Card. Come on.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a good test. This is a good test for him in this race. There's no doubt.
He's going to win by 10 now.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
We've talked him into the winner's circle.
We've talked him into the Kentucky Derby winner's circle at
this
point. So we're both on Barnes. I think we are both going to sit here and say that this is a huge race for him. And honestly, it's hard to go over 2 here because of the small field. I don't know. I feel like one of the Bafferts might pivot after this one, depending on how they run. Journalism, obviously, he could be a Derby horse, or he could be not even talked about come Derby day. He could be in the Pat Day. That might be a Pat Day horse. I don't know. So give me kind of your pick here and kind of your overall thoughts. Like, if Barnes wins Saturday, he becomes my top blank horse.
Oh, I mean, if Barnes wins Saturday, he will certainly be number 2 at least on the list, I would think, unless those horses behind him just run terrible and he runs terrible and he just wins and by default. But if he wins Saturday, I think he's at least moving to number 2. And I just think he is the most likely horse to run that type of really big race. He's sitting on a big race, according to everything I see. So I think Barnes runs very well and is at least number 2 on the list.
I mean, I think if he wins, like I think he could and should, I think he'll be number 1 for me. If he can do it, like with how I envision this thing, I think he's going to be scary for these next couple of races, and it'll be interesting to see with him and Citizen Bull. With Citizen Bull, obviously aiming for the San Felipe Derby. Where would Barnes go? Is Barnes become the Arkansas horse? I think that's going to be interesting as this plays out. But definitely love Barnes here to win this race. And listen, guys, I don't know how good of a betting race it is. Barnes is going to be probably sub. It might be 4 to 5 or less. Mm-hmm. It may not be a great race to bet, but we're going to learn a hell of a lot of this in this race.
Yep.
I mean, just so much, even for the horses that don't win. How do they finish? Do they make a run? Is it something that they can build on? So much to learn out of this race, so you got to watch it. All right, last up, the Gotham Stakes, race number 8 at Aqueduct, worth $300K for going 1 mile. That's right, we're going a mile now. So the same race that Barnes is going to get points, or whoever wins that race, same race that in the Fountain of Youth, they're getting 50 points. Mile 16th test. Now we're cutting back to a mile at Aqueduct, and we're going to give the same amount of points. Field of 10 shows up here, and your favorite is Sand Devil for Linda Rice at 9. So Linda Rice has a favorite in a Derby prep worth 50 points. Go, Halterman.
And a New York bred going 1 turn. Look, I think this is obviously just a dumb prep. As far as a Derby prep race shouldn't be at a mile worth 50 points. However, I will say, I think we could see a really good race. And maybe it's a New York bred, good race where it's Sacrosanct and Sand Devil, but they look like standouts in this race. And they're a combined 7 for 7. They've never lost either one of them. So I do think we could see a good little showdown here. I also think we could see a situation where maybe they burn each other out and a closer wins, and it could be any of the other 8, right? I don't know. I don't really know who to pick if that happens. So I do think this is an interesting race just as a horse race that we can bet on and watch.
Yeah, it's between these two, the 4 and the 5, these New York breds, it's interesting. It makes it interesting, and I mean, it's funny because if you saw this race and it was like a New York bred race, you're like, this is gonna be a fun race, watching these two. But it's a Derby prep, so now you're like having to figure that part out. What did you think of uh, state bred horse number 9 Garamond for Chad Brown, a horse that's only coming in off of one start? It was a win. It was pretty impressive, really, at Tampa. This 8-1. I mean, Juddmonte, Chad Brown, Castellano. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, no, I think that's a horse that's got a big chance. If I wasn't going to pick the 4 or the 5, I would pick the 9 Garamond. Look, pretty good debut race. It wasn't like rated overly fast from a time form standpoint. I don't know what it got on Beyer, but that was kind of the thing. The horse is going to have to improve, but we see improvement with Chad Brown second-time starters a lot, right? So I'm not overly concerned about that. It's just, these New York breds, they're pretty seasoned and they're pretty good and they're pretty proven right here, where this one it's the second start of his career. He's stretching out to a mile. He's up to Aqueduct for the first time. There was just a lot of question marks, but you're getting paid. If you get 8-1, and I'm skeptical that you will, but if you do, I think he's worth a shot.
All right, so we'll make this short and sweet. This will be a fun race, good betting race. It might be one of the better betting races. Well, it's certainly better than the San Felipe from a betting standpoint, and might be better even than the Fountain of Youth. So if you're betting this one, who you liking here on top?
I like the number 4, Sacrosanct on top. He has been very impressive. He's, like Sand Devil, he's won races right here, and he's won races at a mile. Boy, the thing that got me, I really kind of, when I look at the pattern of how this horse is leading into the race, his workouts have been legit coming into this. And it kind of just feels like they won that race on December 14th, and Brad Cox said, okay, Gotham, that's where we're going. We'll just build him up for that. I think he's sitting on a huge race. I think his talent level may be a little bit higher than Sand Devil, but I'm not confident in that. But I that's the way I saw it. I think he's going to get the lead. I think he's going to try to take him gate to wire. So I like Sacrosanct on top. Wouldn't be shocked if Sand Devil wins. If those two don't win, I think it could get weird.
Yeah. It kind of feels like, when I was going through it, I'm like, I kind of want the horse that is going to the lead, of these two. And I couldn't decide which one it was,
Yeah.
Both of them have won gate to wire. Both of them have won right off the stocking kind of trip, just nearly on it. Both of them are going to be forwardly placed. So it's kind of want to be who inherits the lead. You could, maybe the 4 drawing inside gets a little bit of an edge there, getting to the front. 5 sits right off of them. Regardless, I think they're going to be within a half a length of each other the whole way around. Just depends on, who kicks home. So it really does kind of feel like a pick 'em. I'd love to see the odds be a little bit closer. I am going the 5 Sand Devil. It just feels like a race. I have 0.0% interest in this horse really moving forward. But the beauty of a 50-point Derby prep race running at a mile is you don't have to be a Derby horse to win this race. You just have to be good running a mile. And I think this horse is 3 for 3 at the track. Obviously has won at this distance as well. It's Linda Rice, who obviously needs no introduction. So I think this horse gets the job done.
It's a good pick.
I think, by the way, I'll put the over under at 0.5, and I'm going under. I think 0 horses come out of this race. Now here, okay, hang on. Before you give me an answer, the caveat to that is, if you win, you're in the Derby. Okay, so that you have to assume if you win this race, the ownership or the trainer is going to say, you know what, we're not going to the Derby. This is not a Derby horse. So that makes it tricky.
I'd have to go over that half, because I just feel like whoever wins this race, they're going to want to go, and even though they don't really need to be going. So yeah, I'll go over that, even though that makes me sick to say I'll go over.
But isn't that the and I don't want to go over this again and again. I feel like we beat it like every weekend or every week, but the horse is gonna, like, Sand Devil could potentially take away I mean, I name a horse. I don't know, a horse that's on the cusp, but a horse that could get into the Derby, that finishes third in the Florida Derby.
I would say, I'll say this to be positive. Let me say this. I agree with you, but let me be positive for a second about it. If Sand Devil wins and say he wins by like a length or two, right? He'd be 4 for 4. And he is by violence out of a mine shaft mare, which means he might be able to stretch out and be okay. Maybe if it's like somebody like Sand Devil, we go, well, maybe he won't be just awful in the race. I'm trying to be positive.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's that where you're like, hey, listen, I mean, it's a New York bred. I mean, just because it's a New York bred only running an Aqueduct doesn't mean they don't want to make it to the Derby.
Yeah.
So if they have the chance, they're gonna, you don't want to like criticize them for doing it. It just feels like the bigger issue is that you're allowing 50 points to be had on a mile race at Aqueduct in March. That's the issue.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We've discussed this before. So
yeah, it's a joke. Yeah.
I'm on the 5 Sand Devil. You got we're going to the 4 Sacrosanct. We're going the New York Breds. New York Bred, exacta box. Lock it up. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, you get in the gate, you're in. You crazy. After that, shit, all you gotta do is make the gate. Sometimes you don't have to make the gate until later in the week when you get scratched in.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to get in. But the point that I'm making is, and again, the horse that finishes third with a troubled trip. Let's just say like the horse. Just throwing this out there. The Grande horse that ran earlier, Pletcher, runs in the Florida Derby, and has just an awful trip. Banged up, has so many issues, but rattles up for third, but gets squeaked out of the Derby because of the horse that won this race. And again, they won, take nothing away, but I think that's the issue is like a horse that has potential, that has like a horse that you'd think would want to go long. All you got to do is get in the gate and you got a shot.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the issue. Just why allow points that are the same amount of points on the same weekend as the San Felipe and the Fountain Youth, but you're allowing horses that have no business, not all of them, have no business in the Derby.
Well, and again, it's an easy fix. You just flip-flop the distances of the races. The Withers is a mile, and then the Gotham, when you start giving out 50 points, is a mile and an eighth. Boom, we fixed it.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is.
Not hard.
No. You can run for a mile, add a mile, and get 20 points. That's great. That's not a big deal. But when we're giving away 50, let's go 2 turns.
I mean, yeah, it kind of feels like there should be a written rule, not an unwritten rule, an actual rule that's like, hey, if you're giving out 50 points, it's got to be a 2-turn race.
Right.
It has to be.
It kind of like they took away like points from the hopeful. When they switched to the point system, they left out the hopeful and the Del Mar for charity, and their argument was, well, it's a 1-turn race, so we don't want to give that away. And it's like, yeah, no, I get it. I don't need the hopeful and the Del Mar for charity to lead to the Kentucky Derby. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It is very different, a 2-year-old race at 7 furlongs. But then we do this, and it's like, well, you didn't stick to what you wanted to do. This is stupid, you know? So anyway.
I mean, listen, we know how good some of these horses at Shagaff and J-Boy's Echo and Enticed and Mischievous Alex and Wayburn and Morello and Raise Cane and Deterministic. We know how good those horses have done in the Derby. So the history of the race speaks for itself.
Right.
Get them in. Get them in. I mean, how many of those horses made the Derby? Did Raise Cane ran in the Derby? I think
he did. Yeah, he did. I don't. Morello didn't.
Wayburn didn't. Did he? No.
I don't. If he did, he was nowhere to be found. Who was it?
Wayburn, Mischievous Alex, Heichel, Enticed, J-Boy's Echo.
Deterministic didn't. Yeah. So hardly any of them.
Yeah, no, he did not. Wayburn ran in the Wood after the Gotham, finished 4th, and then ran in the Pegasus next in Monmouth and lost, and ran in the Jim Dandy and lost in the Pennsylvania Derby.
Yeah.
And then when they actually cut him back a little bit, he started to be decent, but he didn't win more than 2 races, I don't think, after the win in the Gotham.
I remember when Morello won, I thought, man, that pedigree, he might stretch out, and he's got a good trainer and blah, 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 blah. And then I don't think he ever even something. I think he got hurt or something because he never was even close after that.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We covering the betting Bible, Kevin, and Encino. We got a hell of a Encino versus Mindframe.
I actually think that's going to be awesome.
That's going to be an Mindframe, man. 2 horses that you never knew if they would. Definitely did not think that at least one of them would, could be retired, but they're back and they're facing off on Saturday, and it's a good segue into this weekend. The betting Bible for the Fountain of Youth. I posted it 2 hours ago. It's live on the site for download right now. RacingDudes.com. Just hit that Get Racing Dudes Premium button on the main menu. You'll see it right there on the screen. It includes the full card at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, which of course includes the Fountain of Youth. Exactly how I'm playing it. Exactly how Halterman's playing it. The bets, the top 4s. John White's got his top 4s for every race on the card. We're also covering the San Felipe and the Gotham in full detail. Spoiler alert, I'm not betting the Gotham, but if you want to know what I think about the race in the Gotham, you want to make sure you read that. But it kind of gives you a commentary as well. Like, hey, here's my pick. Here's why I made the pick. Here's also some different plays you can play. Here's my consensus of the overall day. All that stuff is included in the betting Bible. You do get those for free if you're a premium subscriber, or you can get your hands on it for $29.95 in the store over at racingdudes.com. So, yeah, Mindframe versus Encino. That's going to be fun. Get to check out the betting Bible to see who each of us are leaning on. I got to think most people know who I like in that race just without looking. But
how are you going to react if he drifts to the right in the stretch again?
So your ass should have stayed off the track, you bastard.
There's some very Jared is going to be triggered moments that could happen Saturday.
Yeah,
like
there's a few.
We could get some all-time Jared public meltdowns on Saturday. I feel it. I hope it doesn't happen because I've got some of the same horses picked as you, but there's some real this horse triggered Jared in the past, or this horse has a chance to trigger him in the future.
Mindframe, like drifting late and not finishing the race will trigger me by a lot. I've lost so much money on this horse, or lost the potential of making so much money on this horse because of his idiot ass. So
I would say walking from the Saratoga to where we ate that night, that's probably, you weren't really even angry. That's probably the most disappointed I've seen you in a long time.
Yep. I remember that walk quite well, actually, because I could not get over the fact that he lost that race, and it was at Saratoga, and it's just like I was so right. I knew it. I knew he'd run well, and not to mention the fantasy points on the line, and the huge bet we had, and I had, and you're just like, oh my, like he had it, and another horse that was kind of ruined by getting pushed into the races probably too soon. And hopefully he comes back strong here. But, it's been a while. It's been, yeah.
I love this comment.
Haven't we all done this like multiple times, Rob?
Well, the thing about walking down Union Avenue after the race in Saratoga heading downtown, and you're going to have fun, one way or another. But sometimes you're doing cartwheels down Union Avenue. You're so happy and excited, and wow, that horse came after the Travers this year was just so you felt alive, But yeah, after that Belmont, I'll never forget Vicky Felker, who was at home, was texting me. She's a subscriber and a friend, and she just kept sending me videos of like the drone shot of him running to the stands, and I was just like, oh, it was a terrible walk. That was a very, very terrible walk. I remember that night we just kept talking about it. it was almost unbelievable that it happened. It really was. Just like, I can't believe that just happened.
There's there's so many things. So the one nice thing about it is the beer, or the drinks, whatever you're drinking, are always good, no matter if you've had a win under your belt or a loss, right? The alcohol cures everything at downtown Saratoga. That's for sure. I think the other thing, it's truer words have never been spoken, Kevin. Is,
I really want. Can we tell that story now or no? Probably not.
I mean, I don't care. She's probably gone. I probably pissed her off now. It's just she's probably not a fan anymore. So, but also I was wanting to say too is I think I couldn't decide the whole night if I was equal, like which one I was more pissed about. The fact that I hated Dornock and like it was against him so much, or the fact that I loved Mindframe and he kind of lost it himself there. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't figure out which one I was more, which one was triggering me more. And it just so happened to be both of them. Both of them happened. So it was a day.
I'll never forget that. Sometimes you, like, when you see a comment like this, you literally you can feel it. Like, I can remember how I felt, where we were, like I just, you know what I mean? Like, there's some walks down that Union Avenue there, and down the streets to Caroline Street some nights, and sometimes other streets depending on the day it is, and you could just remember those, the good and the bad. So yeah, that's
Kevin. I was like that day. I was like, I think I was like Mindframe that day, and her mom was Johnny V whipping the shit out of me. That's what it was. Whereas like I had it, and then she came in the picture. I was 1-9, man.
I'll say this: we've had every type of night at Saratoga. We really have, and that one will go down as the oddest, I would say. And it was I would judge it as a fun night, and kind of it's a really funny night for me, not for you, but also just kind of looking back at it, we're like, that was a really weird night, But
yeah, there was a lot of weird aspects to that night.
Was that after the Travers? Was that the Travers?
That was after the Travers that night.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the Travers. Because that was when Philly almost won.
That was fun.
That was a hell of a race.
Yeah.
You weren't really disappointed by not like I was for the Belmont. But yeah, that one was that day. That had a lot of aspects to that night where I'm just like, what is happening right now? And then you had our idiot child with us that just never could get his foot out of his mouth, and made it awkward on top of that. And yeah, you're
not wrong.
Creed concert going, and saw Kevin, and he's like, what is happening with my life? What is happening?
It was an awkward night, but a fun one.
Yeah, there's so many. There's a lot of aspects. Kevin, I think we got to get. We'll reconvene. There's so much of that day that happened that you probably don't know about, that probably doesn't need to be on air, but it had the potential. Remember after, like, when we went to drinks after dinner, and it was just like, that was the oddest. It was like being on a date with the mom, like, sitting between you.
Yeah. It's like everybody in the room read the situation but the mom. Like, well, and Ricky, but I mean, I could have told Ricky what to do. You know what I mean?
We had a picture for Ricky to draw color while we were sitting there, and he kind of figured it out later. But
I think he finally got it, that no, you're not the center of attention this time. Like, you need to go to the back part. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it was like, and I admit, like, okay, so I don't know how deep you want to get into this, but like, I was staying in the same hotel room as you, right? Obviously. And I had, like, planned out how to exit that room for the night. I mean, everybody knew what was happening, but one person.
Everyone had it figured out.
So it was like, it was all there, but it didn't materialize. So
it was, I was like, what? I don't what the game plan was there, Like, it's like, Mom, just I'll go, and she was like, "Nah, you sure?"
Well, and I was kind of like, do I like what is my role here? And I tried to play a role of like, let's let these two kids have their fun. And it was not happening. And then I'm going to tell people this was the most bizarre thing ever. So we're sitting at where the fuck were we? It was late. Druthers. We're sitting at Druthers.
Brothers, yeah.
Yeah. And it was like the mom and her and you and 3 or 4 of us. I don't remember who all was there because we were with different people throughout the night. But anyway, the person, the young lady left the table. Okay. No. Jared left the table first because he said, I got to go to the bathroom. The young lady leaves the table like 20 seconds later and says, I got to go to the bathroom. Then I'm looking at, I think it was maybe Vinny or Vinny's wife. I'm like, okay, that's smart. That's a good way to kind of get away from this situation and get by themselves. That was smart. So, and you guys were gone like 10 minutes. I felt like it probably wasn't that long, but it felt that long because I was having to like talk to this lady that I didn't know who she was. And I didn't, I don't know. She was nice, but I didn't really want to talk to her that long. So anyway, you guys get back and you were smart. Like one of you came back and then the other came back. And so they leave finally. And so we're walking. I was like, so yeah, what happened? Right. And you're like, what are you talking about? I said, you guys didn't like go like make out in the bathroom or whatever. And he's like, I didn't know. What are you talking? I just went to the bathroom and came back to the table. I was like, how dumb are these people? Like, what? Not you, but like, she saw you go, just follow him. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. It was weird. Sorry. That made me angry as well, that situation.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. And yeah, obviously that would have been a great idea, but I like
everybody at the table thought that was happening.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was Vinny's wife and Vinny, and we kind of looked at each other like, yeah. I was like, yeah. And like when I'm on I'm into like, let's help this guy out because let's you get into it. Like you're the wingman, it's like I felt like I was failing, and there's nothing I could do about it, and I hated myself.
Yeah, and then I was like, my mind was like, she was like looking at me for what to do. I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, what do you want? You want to say, hey, old lady, get out of here? Come on.
We're not dating. We're not, like.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of feel like the ball's in your court. I don't have my mom with me, so and by the way, that they were staying like they weren't even staying in town.
Yeah.
They were staying like 30 minutes away or 40 in Albany, I think. So
yeah,
it was not convenient whatsoever to be like, hey, stay out for a while and then I'll walk you back to your hotel room or whatever. No, it was it had kind of a hey, if you're gonna stick around, it means you're gonna have to stay in my hotel room, and you know what I mean. It's just and by the way, if you do that, the mom's gonna know what you're doing because you're not. It was very odd. So
it was very awkward, and I tried my best, and Jared's right, Kevin's right. He played it. I mean, he couldn't have done any more. He just couldn't have.
Listen, I was once she arrived, and even you were like going in, you're like, what the hell, because I mean, listen, let's not lie, like it's not the first, like there's been times where I want to meet this chick or whatever, and you're like, okay, whatever, and then she walked up and you're like, oh fuck, I'll see you later, dude. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, she was a 10 and I was like, okay, I mean, we're being honest tonight, like you've met some girls at like racetracks, and like I'm not saying anything bad about them. Like
racetrack girls, yeah.
Well, we had fun and shit. Like there was a night at Keeneland, we had a hell of a time. But it's like I don't really. My bar for what might happen is not like it's like whatever, right? But yeah, she walks in and like, okay, yeah, I'll go talk to Kevin, and there's this guy over here. I'll go talk to him, and we'll just hang out. And if you need me for anything, just let me know. You do you, brother. Like that's all you. So.
Isn't it funny how like
I said, hey, how you doing? Guys, nice to meet you. Okay, see ya.
There's like certain guys that do get it. There's one particular guy that didn't.
Right.
But where it's like same with you, same with Kevin is like we met Kevin twice.
Yeah.
And he looks at same thing. He looks at the situation, looks at me, and said, "All right, see ya." Like,
Yeah.
there's no like, why is he blowing us off? He's like, no, we get it.
No, he gave
We
you
got
one
it.
of these. Hey.
Yeah, yeah,
And he's over with me,
yeah,
He's
exactly.
like, does this always happen with him? I was like, well, I mean, it always happens, but not with somebody like that.
I'll say this: Halterman's married. He's been married for 100 years. He's not even close to being like a going out and doing the clubs and stuff. But he is a hell of a wingman. Like he'll bring he'll buy bring drinks over or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he's for all the Office fans, he's Andy. He's trying to hook up. He's trying to hook up Oscar at the gay bar, but
Well,
he's definitely working he tries really hard for me. So
oh yeah,
it doesn't always work, especially when the mom's in play.
no,
But
that that girl at Lexington, I told her friends that you were the greatest man I've ever known. Because what he did, well, she was with like 4 or 5 girls, and they all stayed at this bar, which I was fine. I mean, it was a great bar we were at. You would have rather been at the bar. They were doing live music, and it was like music when we were kids. They were playing, so it was great, and we were having a hell of a time. And we're talking to her friends, and she's like, "Just shoot me straight on your buddy," and I'm like, because we're all just. It was after the Breeders' Cup, and we're all just tanked.
Yeah,
like Flightline had just crossed the wire, and we were having such a good time. And I was like, I like, I'll never forget this. I put my hand on her shoulders. I said, "Let me tell you something. That's one of the greatest guys I've ever known." I said, "We've got a group here, and this guy, he's the one. You got the one out of the group." And I wouldn't lie to you.
Listen, this is why this is why he's a great wingman.
She goes, "Thanks so much for telling me this." I said, "It's my pleasure."
Oh man, well, I know how to pick that one for sure. That was a fun night.
We've tried this before. What Rob said.
Yeah,
Rob, we went out to the harness track. Okay, we go. That's our thing. Like we'll go out there. Usually feeling pretty good, and we're just dicking around. And so we got out there the last time we got out there, and there's these, crazy degenerates sitting out there. And we were like, let's go ask one of these ladies how they pick these horses, and we'll go bet them, because they are there every night. You could tell. And we remember we went and asked them, and they were like, they were replying, but we couldn't even understand what they were saying.
Yeah, it was.
No, they throw out a number, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They're crazy.
They talked like they were at the racetrack every day. So
yeah,
it was. That was. Looking back, there's been some advice, some interesting stories. Not all that I care to rehash, but part of having half the racing dudes ownership there, having half of single, half married. So you kind of get the best of both worlds on a lot of our trips. So,
well, I think you need to go back to Seattle. I think that would make sense.
Oh man, Seattle was nice. Solid.
Yeah, Seattle's good.
We just
problem like I don't know. We were kind of
tied to like the agenda of that trip.
It wasn't that kind of trip. You had to be respectful a little bit.
You mean, as much as I would like to have John White as my wingman, that sounds like a dream I had yesterday. Actually,
I would love that. That would be the greatest thing ever. By the way,
I don't know that he would have we weren't there for after the game, let's go hit the bars and go get some drinks. It's like, no, we're on our way back to the hotel, so it was fine. But, different. I agree. That place, Seattle, was a blast. And there was a lot of talent out there, a lot of talent out west, I must say. So, all right, guys. Let's honestly, we should do a show. We should obviously think about it beforehand, so we go in with like our top whatever, but like top 10 non-racing kind of related stories. That would be pretty solid.
That happened at the
Just
At the
either
track.
it happened at the track, it happened, afterward on some sort of trip that we were on. Because we've done, so many interesting situations that have happened. I feel like
half probably would be at Saratoga, I'd imagine.
Oaklawn, Saratoga would take up.
Oh, Oaklawn, yeah.
Take up and I'm talking like early days Oaklawn, early racing dudes days. Not so much anymore, but
not even racing dudes days. Like before we even had the site.
Yeah.
Oaklawn was fun, yeah.
I mean, the Toby Keith story is one that is just legendary.
I think that's my favorite. That'd be number one. Yeah. I think
and Heather, anytime Heather's there, it turns it up a notch because you get drunk Heather or drunk Jared or both. And it becomes a whole thing. So
Heather at that would have been the Friday before the Belmont. That was rare form. Yeah, that was good. Oh
gosh,
that was good.
Remember when she just fell over?
Oh my! Remember, I thought she was like dead.
I thought she tore ACL or something. Or
didn't you think she was like seriously hurt that night? So we were what happened? We were walking home, walking back to Airbnb from downtown, and she boom we were just walking, and all of a sudden, bam, right on the ground, on the sidewalk.
Like zero effort to catch herself, just bam, flat down. And Halter and I, she's like between us. Halter and I look at each other like, what the fuck just happened? Someone shoot her, a sniper or something? Like, she was good. She was laughing. She's like, I'm good.
Remember where we were walking though? I think she was just so excited. We were walking to Stewart's to get
ice cream. Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, are you okay? And she's like, I can see Stewart's. It's like, okay, you're good. You're good.
There's those like people walking behind us. They just like kind of walked around us. Just,
like, they didn't even check on her. Yeah.
Like, yeah, all right, cool. She's all right. Yeah, but you go there long enough, you see it all the time. You see people fall over all the time. So,
well, we got to the place. We got to the place. She's like, I fell. She was telling the person that was getting the ice cream. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
What kind of ice cream do you want?
Dying laughing.
Oh man, yeah, lots of good stories. Lots, drunk. There's too many to count, honestly. We've had some good times, but yeah, that'd be a fun show. One of these like weeks is obviously not now because it's so busy, but one of these like weeks where we have nothing, like not much to talk about, we'll make that as a segment. That'd be fun. So
I like that. I like
Rob
that.
going to Keeneland. There you go. Where are you going? Are you going for the Bluegrass?
Yeah.
That'll be fun. We go to the we might be there to the Bluegrass. We've been to the Bluegrass the last couple of years.
Well, just by Rob's comment, I feel like we've been in the same places as Rob several times in our life and just didn't know it because
sure.
So he said he people watches at the harness track. Is like, yeah, it's like a tradition now for us. We went over there once and we're like, we got to do this every time. It's amazing.
Dude, you talk about
that's Lexington.
Lexington. Yeah. The weirdest shit that you see in like because you see a lot of the same people, it feels like, but that still blows my mind. That day we were in Seattle and we met this guy from the ownership of what was that horse's name that won?
5-Star General.
5-Star General. They have like a big conglomerate of people that have ownership in the horse, and met this guy at a party in Seattle. Right, makes no sense that we're in Seattle, Washington, at some dude's house who has ownership in this horse. We were there the night before he won with a big group, met this dude. We were all drunk and drinking, having a good time, whatever. Fast forward to like a couple weeks later, we're at all the way the other side of the you could not get further away from Seattle than we were now in Saratoga. And it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm sitting in the lobby of the hotel we're staying in. And I see this dude walk by, and you're drunk, and you're like, "That's that dude." We saw him in Seattle. Like we talked to him, I had a conversation with him in Seattle, and now it's a couple weeks later. I'm in New York, and it's like it blew my mind. I was like, "Is this real?"
That's racing.
Yeah, and I don't think he remembered talking to me, by the way. So
I doubt it. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're on Twitter at @Racing_Dudes, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure you find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page, Apple Podcasts, all the places. We are there. The Dudes Who Bet Sports and the Magic Mike Show both recorded earlier. The Magic Mike Show did the Pick 5 at Gulfstream Park. What did you guys talk about with Dudes Who Bet Sports?
We went over the Derby preps, and we got Papa Dude's thoughts on the Derby preps, and then we talked college basketball, and then what did we talk about? We did the kind of the same ending of the show as we just did. We told some stories about stuff, but I can't remember now what it was. But it was pretty good stuff. Did we would the world be better without the internet? Was one of the questions, and anyway, there was all kinds of stuff we were talking about, so it was good.
That sounds like your dad came up with that one. So
my dad, yeah, for sure. He also, he's kind of more of the negative handicapper. I hate all these horses, but this is one I hate the least, so that's always kind of a different approach than most of our people. So that's always fun. he picked Sandman last week. He's like, but I hate him. I'm like, okay, why did you pick him? He's like, well, I hate them all. It's like, okay, all right, it's great.
Oh, geez,
it's great. Also, I will say though, he's doing it again in college basketball. I think he's not to joke for a second. I think he's one of the best college basketball handicappers I've ever met. He wins all the time. So
how's he do it?
I think it's how we dedicate our life to racing, and for me kind of hockey a little bit. I think it's basketball for him, college basketball. He's just all over it. And if I called him up and say, hey, you think Valparaiso is going to beat Bradley tonight, he would have an informed opinion on it. He might not be right every time, but he knows the teams and he's watched them before. So
yeah. He it's like when you're handicapping a race and you look at the form, or you actually have seen all these horses run. Yeah. And you know exactly what they do and where they run and what they're good at. That's just, that's next level. So,
yeah.
But you guys can get his best bets as well over at racingdudes.com. Yep. Just click the best bets tab there on the main menu. And again, if you want to follow along, he does mostly sports picks. But if you want exactly who he likes, we have a whole section for his plays every single day, as well as Halterman's. I was just seeing that today. I was like, about for me to come out of retirement. I usually do my best bets when the racing gets hotter, then I start getting more on the best bets. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do. All right, guys, that's going to be an end to the show here. Big weekend coming up with the 3 big preps. So make sure you watch and bet all of those, unless it's San Felipe, and maybe just watch. But okay, until next time, I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.